Man, of course, was none other than Milton Hershey. Now, here was a man who had struggled for years. In fact, he failed 4 times before he finally succeeded as a candy maker. And when he finally did succeed, making his name a household word, he devoted himself to building a model town with an unsurpassed quality of life. Just by looking around, you can see all of the wonderful things that Mr. Hershey gave to this community. Parks, zoos, schools, hospitals, even a home for orphan boys. Now, it is no surprise that Mr. Hershey was greatly loved. Every day, he would make his rounds in the factory and talk to his workers, always on a first-name basis. And Christmas was his favorite time of year. Now, here was a man many times over a millionaire who delighted in the simple rituals of Christmas time. He loved going shopping and visiting his friends in town, seeing all the decorations and attending church services. There is no doubt that Mr. Hershey truly made Christmas a very special time. But the Christmas of 1937, something was missing. Mr. Hershey had suffered a severe stroke shortly after his 80th birthday, and the townspeople were afraid he wasn't going to recover. Although everyone went about their usual Christmas preparations, things just weren't the same. Mr. Hershey was greatly missed. He missed his people. Well, Christmas Eve rolled around, and he just couldn't stay indoors any longer, so he went to his chauffeur, Mr. Tice, and he asked if they could go for a drive through town so he could see everyone doing their last-minute Christmas shopping and drive past the churches as they held their Christmas Eve services. Well, Mr. Hershey was pretty surprised when Mr. Tice didn't put up much of an argument, especially since it was snowing outside. He was even more surprised and disappointed when they got into town and there was no one around. The streets were empty, the churches were closed up and dark. He said we might as well go home since there's nothing to see. Back up at the mansion, things were dark and quiet. Trying to make Mr. Hershey feel better, Mr. Tice said, well, at least let's step out on the balcony and get some fresh air. And now Mr. Hershey was really surprised because usually Mr. Tice fussed over him like a mother hen and made him pay the strictest attention to the doctor's orders. But this was an offer he couldn't refuse, so he stepped out onto the balcony and looked out over his lawn as the snow gently fell into the darkness. And then something wonderful began to happen. Out of the darkness, lighted candles began to appear, and soon hundreds of them covered Mr. Hershey's front lawn and driveway, the same driveway that we are on right now. All of the townspeople and all of the church choirs had come together to show their love for Mr. Hershey. Together, their voices filled the night air with the song Silent Night, and after singing one more hymn, the candles were put out, and just as quietly as they had come, the townspeople disappeared back into the darkness. Well, as you can imagine, Mr. Hershey was so moved. He couldn't say a single word. He simply turned around, walked back inside, and closed the door. Back inside the mansion, things were quiet again. Why don't we try to recapture that moment by singing Silent Night right now?
Silent night, holy night, all is calm, all is bright, round yon virgin, mother and child, holy and so tender and mild, sleep in heavenly peace, sleep in heavenly peace.
Well, there is a second part to that story, guys. Actually, a happy ending. It seems that love really is the best medicine because not long after this event, Mr. Hershey made a full, strong recovery and within months was back working in his factory, shoulder to shoulder with his men. Not only that, but he lived 8 more prosperous years until he died at the ripe old age of 88. So how's that for a Christmas miracle? Another little interesting fact.
Hello dear, excuse me. I was wondering if you wouldn't mind giving me a ride. You see, I'm on my way to Prudence Copenhagen's farm. Oh, pardon me, where are my manners? I'm Fanny Hershey, Milton's mother.
Oh, dear Milton. It's an honor to meet you, Mrs. Hershey.
Well, don't make such a fuss, dearie. And just call me Mama Hershey. Everyone else does.
Okay, Mama.
I see you were all up visiting my son. He and Kitty were just in the kitchen baking some Christmas cookies for
Oh,
him.
really? What kind?
Oh, Milton's favorite, the peanut butter ones with the Hershey kiss right on the top. It's delicious. We've all had them, right? The delicious cookies. I love baking them.
I'm sure he loves eating.
Oh, indeed he does. Kitty's such a wonderful girl, and the house is just beautiful. But between you and me, dearie, Milton spent far too much money on the house. Oh, goodness. $53,433.
On that house.
Outrageous. Yes, 22 bedrooms and all, dear. Oh, my goodness.
Oh.
Ridiculous. Your dollars just doesn't go as far as it used to, my
Oh,
dear.
you have no idea, Mama.
Oh, well, I hope I'm not taking you too far out of the way, though, am I?
It's not out of the way at all.
Excellent, thank you. Well, this trolley's decorated very beautifully. Did you do it all by yourself, dear?
Oh, no, I had help from Rich. He has the artistic eye.
Oh, Rich, it's wonderfully done.
I'm good with tape.
It's one of my two favorite times of year, the Christmas season, with all the decorations and the lights and the singing. Oh, and the singing, just as me and Kitty were in the kitchen. We heard the voices of angels singing Silent Night outside. Did you happen to hear the angels as you drove
You
past?
know, I thought I heard something like angels from heaven singing as we drove past
I wish
the
they
house.
could have kept going. Oh, well, dear, look, right here at my son's factory. Oh, did I mention I'm Milton's mother? And right out in front of his factory are the Hershey cocoa bushes. Why, I remember when Milton had them planted back in 1909.
Steve Rich does too.
Oh, indeed. Well, of course, though, they're not really made of cocoa. They're barberry bushes. But around the town, we like to call them Hershey barberry bushes.
Like a Hershey bar.
Chocolate.
But it's a Silverberry bush.
Well, dear, have you seen all those lighted Christmas trees that are up around the town?
I have, Mama. They're quite lovely.
They're beautiful, but it's a very odd tradition. Would you happen to know where it ever got started?
Well, as a matter of fact, Mama, I do.
Oh, would you mind telling us all?
I would love to tell you all. It's a wonderful story. Well, it seems this tradition had gotten started in Germany during the 16th century when a young minister by the name of Martin Luther was out walking through the forest on a clear and starry Christmas Eve moment. He was doing some thinking about the birth of Jesus. Now his birth brought light into the world. And while he couldn't help but notice the way the starlight was shining through the branches of the pine trees, and he had an idea, Mama, I guess you could say a light switched on in his head. So he went home to show his family, and he showed them by tying candles onto a pine tree. Well, pretty soon the custom caught on, and there wasn't a home in Germany that didn't have one of these lighted Christmas trees. Oh, and I bet you didn't know this, Mama, but my favorite part is the custom came to America during the Revolutionary War, when none other than General George Washington himself saw these lighted trees in the Hessian soldiers' camp.
Oh, my, well, that is a lovely story, dear. As I always say, you're never too old to learn something new. You know, I'm going to tell that story to Prudence as soon as I get off the trolley. Oh, goodness, she's not doing too well, my dear. No, no. She was out in the barn just this past week milking her very best cow, and dear, it stepped right on her foot, too. She asked me what the best remedy would be, so I told her take a nice warm milk bath. She asked me if the milk had to be pasteurized, and I told her no, dear,